Oh, I've got one as well.
Oh, you've got one.
I've got a question.
All right, welcome back to episode 14 of the Coaches Roundtable. What is this, lockdown 3?
I've stopped fucking counting, mate. I'm done. Just give me some Baileys and just let me try not to think about it for a while.
Yeah, so we'll try and keep this one lighthearted. Obviously, with the situation currently at hand, it's not ideal, but we move on when we try and do the best we can for each other, I guess.
Yeah,
so
might say sometimes it do be like that though.
Sometimes it do be like that though. That's like weightlifting. Okay, so question number 1 is from Sarah. So Sarah, this is kind of off the back of the question that was asked last week about, do you think it's worthwhile for athletes to understand how to coach or to get coaching qualification? So to expand on that question, the question is, what would you recommend as the best way to go about learning more about the methodology of programming and coaching?
Find a good coach and ask them a lot of questions.
Yeah.
I think the actual. So I guess you could split this into two kind of sub questions. One, how do I learn to become a coach? How do I pick up those skills and experience to become a proper coach? And then number 2, how do I learn how to program for other people or myself? I don't know. What do you think, Con? Do you want to answer one part? I'll answer another one, or just...
Yeah. I mean, I think ours are going to be pretty similar, to be honest, in terms of programming and coaching. I think programming really comes down to reading and experimenting. Like, although you might have read something, let's say, for example, I don't know, you follow a very West Side methodology of programming, you wouldn't know if that would actually work on someone if you didn't try it. So in terms of like programming, I would say your best bet is everyone is going to have their own type of way to program. There's not like one specific way. There's obviously principles that remain similar throughout most people's programmings, but generally it's going to be, I like doing it this way because of X, Y, and Z. And then, might be something different. So I'd say reading books is a helpful starting point, but then you also have to understand that a book is not a person, and although you can learn a lot from reading books, it's not how you disseminate that information and how you go about using the information that you've got from that book is what's most important. And like you said, in terms of coaching, the best way to learn is to coach, to make mistakes, to learn from another coach, to ask them questions, to see what they have, to see what they've kind of fallen short on and the mistakes they've made, so that they can kind of guide you into the right direction. I honestly think if I could pick my number one way to learn more about programming and coaching, would be to just go and do it and learn from someone, rather than, I'm not saying don't read books, but I'm just saying I personally don't get loads of information from reading books. I never have. I've not been the type of person to be able to sit down and read a book and then just be able to take all of that information and just plug it into a program or coaching or apply it. I've always been the sort of video type person where I watch a video, I'm like, that's really cool. Or for example, just trial and error, where, I've tried it on myself, I try it on an athlete, I know that works or it doesn't work, and then I continue to sort of adapt that theory to my own kind of thinking, and then that's generally how I like to learn.
I think, yeah, that's fair as well. I always found like with programming, it's so, because there's not like, this is how you do it. It's not like the snatch or the clean and jerk where there's like generally kind of agreed upon way of getting from A to B. With programming, it's like, I don't fucking know, just write a plan and there you go. I know it's actually like, this is probably the one thing that I've struggled the most with, is actually like okay, how do I put a program together? How do I learn how to do that? What goes into it? And just, you know, it's as you say, like, you know, just find as many different sources as you can. There's a couple of really good books out there that I found quite helpful. I think what Programming for Weightlifting, or Weightlifting Programming by Bob Tucano, is very good. The Catalyst Athletics big book is very good. I don't think it goes into programming as much in that, but you will pick up like lots of principles, and you know, just it needs to be on your shelf.
Yeah.
What else we got?
I think the Catalyst Athletics book as well, actually, I feel like is one of the better books, mainly just because it explains a lot of things about weightlifting. So it explains like not just a technical model, but like how things fit together, and also like troubleshooting, where he offers a problem, but it's kind of like there is more than one solution to that problem. And that's sort of like what I got from that book of reading, is that although he has his ideas, that doesn't necessarily mean that his idea is going to apply well to another lifter, for example. But I would say that's the Bible. Like, I learned so much from that book, from Greg Everett.
Even with the programming, you need to know the kind of context, you know, within, you know, why you're programming, and, you know, what kind of aspects is it going to affect. So unless you've got a pretty good understanding of, you know, the kind of the lifts themselves, the, you know, how important is strength, how important is speed, how important is technique, unless you understand these kind of points, your programming is going to be all over the shop. So, you know, it's all one of those things where, yes, learning to program is important, but the only way that you can select those exercises accordingly is by understanding the kind of like greater context, and like understanding that, you know, again, like books, articles, videos, there's loads of different ways. Just, you know, expose yourself to weightlifting as best as you can. But again, you know, it's so annoying with programming. It's like I'd always go about it based on like principles. So, you know, there's a couple of like really basic principles for, you know, for weightlifting, but then, you know, generally applies more to like strength sports in general. You know, you're kind of like your SAID principle, always a specific adaptation to imposed or increased demand, one of the two. I don't know. I did computer science, not bloody strength sports. And basically, just do more than you did last time, and somehow you get stronger. But obviously, you know, you need to give yourself enough time to recover. Things like, you know, 50% of the time on snatch, 50% of the time on clean and jerk, thereabouts. The balance between squats and pulls, upper body, lower body, accessories and core lifts, like, you know, there's so many little things that you know, that again, you follow the principles in your program, and for the individual, some of them are going to be more important than others. And I think that's the joy in it as well, because obviously you're programming based on your own sort of principles, but then when you're programming for someone else, you need to find out what works best for them. So that's a game in itself. But
I think also just being an athlete under someone's tutelage, you can also learn a lot about not just their type of programming, but the way things fit together. Even if you don't want to be a coach yourself, I feel like I feel like I learned a lot just being somebody else's athlete, rather than me just you know, writing my own program, for example, is another way that you could potentially learn how to do things, or writing someone else's program. You know, there's so many different ways that you could learn how to do stuff. But I think, like you said, get a basic understanding of the scientific principles, and then figure out what works, what might not work, and just experiment. Your athletes are your lab rats.
Yeah. And, you know, sometimes you blow up a couple of customers, but that's okay. Everyone does.
Sometimes a few lab rats die, but hey, that's not in the test results. So
acceptable losses.
Yeah, but if I'm sure that I might be able to put some resources that we have learned from in the YouTube and the Spotify section of what's it called, the bio. So I'll pop some stuff in there from stuff that we've read, You can send some over to me, but I'm pretty sure it'd be fairly similar. Hook grip, ATG, Greg Everett, Cal Strength, all that sort of stuff. Bob Tucano. But yeah, anyway, I'll pop some in the thingy. All right. Next question is, this is more of a technical question, so it's a little bit different. So how do you, this is from Izzy. So how do you keep momentum during the clean and then the jerk? So for example, you've just come out the clean.
Right.
How do you keep momentum between finishing your clean and then going into the jerk? So it's not like two separate movements, even though it is two separate movements.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's kind of like, look, it's two separate movements, but it's not really. Like, I think this is something that you don't see a whole lot of emphasis on, is that transition between the clean and the jerk.
Yeah.
And like, you know, ultimately that transition is, you know, you finish the clean, you are now getting set up for the jerk. Okay. So it's going to depend on the individual, but as you know, by and large, that's going to involve repositioning the feet, repositioning the grip width, and just, you know, kind of getting taught, getting set up and kind of ready to go. And, you know, sometimes buying a little bit of time as well. Once you're getting to like obviously really heavy percentages, you know, you need a little breather. It doesn't need to be long, but like even just a couple of seconds to go, fuck, that was heavy. Okay, get your shit together. Let's go. You know, so I don't think, the thing is that like, you know, you look at lots of different lifters and they all have a different way of going about doing it. Like, you know, some people will just, you know, pop the bar straight off the shoulders as they come in and then just kind of like scoot the feet in. Some people will move one foot. Some people will move like one and then the other foot. Some people will come out of the clean and then do like a shallow dip to kind of get the bar off. I think like, but the thing is, it's funny because there's no names for any of these transitions either.
No.
That's, you know, maybe
I think it's just like individual flair, isn't it?
Yeah, I think this is one of the areas that you can actually add a little bit of flair into, and kind of figure out what works sort of well for you.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you know, you want to make it, you know, you're not going to do something just because it looks pretty. Ultimately, you're going to want it to implement it because it's efficient, because it works well, because it saves energy, because it gets you ready for the jerk as quickly as possible. So like, you know, the standard is just like straight out of the clean, pop the bar off the shoulders, rearrange the hands, and then, you know, step the feet in. I've never been a fan of like stepping just one foot in. You see people just there, you know, and then they just move one foot in and they move like halfway across the competition platform. Just feels wrong. It's a symmetrical sport. Keep it symmetrical. Move one and then the other. But you know, then again, is that efficient? Who knows? But it looks better and makes me happier. So
yeah.
But, yeah, I'd say, you know, just watch lots of different lifters, and kind of experiment and try, you know, kind of different ways of setting up and practice it as well.
Yeah, like absolutely. I was just about to say that.
Yeah. Like I've got a setup that requires, I can't be off balance coming out of the clean. You know, sometimes if it's a heavy clean, you'll come forward a little bit or even like a little bit backwards, but I can't do that because I'm immediately straight out. But, you know, it just requires a little bit more kind of practice between, you know, doing that heavy and getting used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. Just, you know, watch a load of lifters and experiment and find out what works best for you, I'd say.
Yeah, I don't know if I can add anything else to that because I think it's pretty straightforward what you said. Like, practice it, see what works best for you. The only thing that I'd say is in terms of like keeping the momentum, try not to rush it because there's a reason why it's called the clean and jerk, because it is two separate movements. It's not called clean plus jerk. That would imply it's you come out the clean, you dip and drive. Like there's no pause in between. And I think, like you said, that pause is not just to reset yourself, but it's also compose yourself and think about what you need to do in the jerk.
It's also, you know, a legal requirement as well. You have the lift has to become motionless before starting the jerk. And so, you know, sometimes you'll see like at much heavier weights, the bar will continue to oscillate. That's fine. But you as an individual have to, remain completely still,
Yeah.
just for a moment, just for a second before
And then
initiating.
yeah, precisely.
So, I'd say like in terms of like time, take as much time as you need, but no more.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
Generally, I wouldn't say it's 3 seconds, but I generally take about three breaths, not just like that. I'm talking like I'd like to think I'm taking like 3 seconds just to compose. So I'm thinking like, where's my balance, what I need to do, and then breath, and then go, sort of thing. So it'll be like a mental checklist. Yeah,
which is a good way of doing it as well, because if you can keep your mind focused on something that isn't, oh Christ, that was heavy, it's to your advantage. I'll come straight out, and because I tend to get like a little bit of oscillation, mainly because of kind of the way that I reposition my hands kind of straight out and then reposition my feet, it tends to preserve it quite a bit. I'm just counting down in my head because I can feel it go 1, 2, 3. Go. So it's usually either a 3 or a 5 count, unless I mess up somewhere and now I'm like, oh God.
And you're like,
Or you got like one hand too far out or one hand too far in, you're like, oh
shit. Yeah, cool. All right, so the next one, this is from Izzy as well. This is an interesting one. How much do you think natural talent / build determines how well you do in weightlifting? I mean, I hate to say it, but if you're genetically better than everybody else and you try hard, you will always be better than everybody else at weightlifting. It is a fact. It's a fact. You don't get to be the best sprinter in the world if you aren't already genetically better than most other sprinters in the rest of the world. That is a fact. But then you can still get very, very strong and very, very fast. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. But to be the best, the absolute best, I think you have to have some kind of genetic advantage. I'm not talking about drugs. I'm talking about your parents were absolutely phenomenal athletes, or you've got, although having said that, Usain Bolt had one leg that was like, what was it, 1/2 an inch or 2 inches longer than his other leg. So anatomically, it wasn't very good for spring. I don't know. But anyway, he was a genetic freak.
Yeah. I think like, well, we're looking here, I would argue, if you are the genetic 0.1%, then why bother training? Because you already got it in the bag, right? No. So I think, it's a bit of column A, it's a bit of column B. Obviously, like, the difference between, getting to the Olympics and medaling at the Olympics, it's, obviously going to be training and genetics to a degree. But I think that, it's always going to be a bit of both anyway. And, weightlifting is it's a very funny sport, because it's like, you can be, really slow, or you can be really fast. You can have really long limbs and a really short torso. You can have a really long torso and really short limbs. There's not like an implicit advantage in anything. I mean, obviously, it helps being A, strong, B, powerful. But I think compared to like less sports, like there's a little bit more variation than I'd say quite a few other sports. But and you see that in the way that people lift. Like people have like slightly more leg dominant, slightly more hip dominant, struggle getting out of the clean versus like
being a monster jerker.
Yeah. So many. I can't clean to save my life, but jerks, no problem.
See, I'm the opposite.
There you go. So I don't think, but again, we're talking about like Olympic, top 3. So it's not like, I think once you're looking at that point, like you're already pretty good. So don't worry too much about it. Just
exactly.
Just lift.
Yeah. Also, I also want to add to the point, because the question was, how much do you think natural talent and build determines how well you do at weightlifting? Well, to be honest, the most important thing as to how well you do at weightlifting is how hard you act and how much like determination you actually put into getting better at weightlifting.
True.
Like, yes, being naturally talented and potentially being slightly bigger is going to help. But like you said, if you don't actually train, how much is that actually going to help versus someone who might absolutely bust their balls and eventually potentially could be better than you because they're working harder and harder. And like you said, weightlifting is unforgiving. It doesn't just reward you for being big and strong. You know, you could be small and fast and still be a phenomenal weightlifter. You could be super slow and yet still be a great weightlifter. Like, you know, there's so many different kind of ways to get better at weightlifting. Like you said, it's not just a straight and narrow, like 100-meter sprinter. You couldn't just get away with going, oh, it's okay because he's not the fastest. Well, if he's not the fastest, he's not going to be the best sprinter, is he? But with weightlifting, you don't necessarily have to be this. I don't want to say the strongest, but you know, you see what I'm kind of insinuating. You don't necessarily have to be the biggest, or
it goes into
precisely.
Generally, not everyone is going to have, like, you know, everything maxed out to 10.
Yeah.
You know?
Top trumps.
Yeah. Think of like top trumps.
Think of top trumps.
No, but I'm thinking like, is it like Rivas Mosquera, Colombian?
Yeah.
Who just moved like that. And then you've got Ritvars Suharevs as well. Again, super fast. But then you've got, like, you know, I'm just trying to think of some
even
slower.
Fernando Hayes.
Yeah.
He's so fast.
He is
for a big guy, he is like, god damn.
Yeah, because he like, it's right, because he lengthens that pull out and then all of a sudden, like, bang, and he's underneath it. It's like, you have no right to move that quickly.
Stop it right now.
Who have we got? Who's really slow? Who's a slow boy?
I wouldn't say people are slow because it's difficult to be slow at weightlifting, but I definitely think that there's people that they have a very over-exaggerated pull in terms of, like, it doesn't appear that they're moving as fast as, say, their counterpart, like Ritva Suharis. You know, like, you could argue, what weight category is Suharis? He's 83, right?
I think, yeah.
Yeah, so then if you look at someone in relation to perhaps, say, Lu Xiaojun and Ritva Suharis, although Lu Xiaojun is obviously quite clearly the slightly better weightlifter, I say slightly, but better weightlifter, I would say Ritvars moves a lot faster than Lu Xiaojun does.
Yeah.
But I would say that Lu Xiaojun moves a lot smoother than Ritvar Suharis does. Nothing is out of place.
No.
With Lu Xiaojun. Whereas Ritvars, he's very, very fast. He's very, very strong. But I feel like there's slightly more margin for error because it's not as controlled. It's literally just like all gas, no brakes. As soon as that bar's off the floor, he's finishing hard as he can. Whereas Lu Xiaojun's kind of just like nice and controlled. And it's a very Chinese way of weightlifting, unless you're someone like Xi Ziyong, who is just an absolute, like,
absolute unit.
Anomaly, yeah. But yeah, I definitely think there's, like you said, there's more than one way to be good at weightlifting.
And, you know, it's like you're going to have advantages in certain areas and disadvantages in other areas. And,
absolutely,
you know, maximize your advantages and, you know, minimize your disadvantages. But, you know, that comes with time, because you know, if you're a beginner or an intermediate, you don't really know where those lie. So you know, just give it time, just figure things out and see where you compare kind of, you know, to your peers and within the kind of wider scheme of things.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you think too much about others in the first year of weightlifting,
oh yeah, no, don't even.
It's too, you might as well just quit now.
Yeah. Learn from them, pick up from them, but don't go, right, I want that, or I want this,
to be better than them. Yeah.
Like,
just focus on yourself, focus on what you need to do, what your coach is telling you to do, you know, get better at what you should say.
Control your own numbers.
Yeah, precisely, yeah. Cool. What was your question? You said you had one at the start.
Let me just try and remember it. Yeah, how do you determine kind of the optimal lean back in like the clean and the snatch?
Fucking hell. I'm not a biomechanist, mate.
No,
I
because
mean,
you know,
if you ask me, I would say lean back, as in like, what's that song? Lean back, lean back. What's that song called? I can't remember what it is. I
not
mean,
helpful.
if you've ever watched my snatch and my clean jerk,
This is a serious question. This is a serious question, Connor.
both of my lifts, I'm literally leant so far back.
Yeah.
I don't finish with my quads at all. Or the only thing I finish with is my lower back and my glutes. That's basically it.
It's lower back.
All hips.
It's no wonder you're always complaining about it.
Yeah. It's like, Colin, why is he back sore? I don't know. Maybe because I did 140 backflip.
Because he's trying to do a limbo with 140 kilos.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if that's easy to quantify, because I think it would massively depend on proportions, anatomy. Because for example, would you having longer legs and a shorter torso potentially create the action of you having to lean back slightly more or not? Or would the fact that you have shorter legs but a longer torso mean that you have to lean back slightly more?
Yeah, because I've heard people discuss it in terms of like, trying to remember, like hip strength versus leg strength. That generally people who have more leg strength will tend to kind of stay over a little bit more and finish a little bit more vertically. Whereas on the inverse, people with more hip will, you know, stay over for a short period of time and finish a little bit more behind the bar.
Yeah. That's very much like me.
Yeah. Because you are the hippie boy.
I have a lot of hip strength, but no leg strength.
Does it vary for you between the snatch and the clean? Or
No,
is it
the
about
same? It's the
interesting?
same.
Mine varies. Mine is more vertical in the clean, but a bit more pronounced in the snatch.
So mine didn't used to be. It used to be a lot more pronounced in the snatch than it did in the clean. But now I've purposely tried to focus on actually finishing taller rather than just throwing my shoulders back in the snatch. I think in the clean I can get away with it still. But in the snatch, if I throw my shoulders back too much and my hips just come into the bar, like I used to do when I first learned in CrossFit, the bar would be all over the shop. So, but yeah, I think it's an interesting one, because for most, you and I, we are always trying to coach them to finish just behind rather than actually throw their shoulders back.
Well, I find like if people throw them back too much, it tends to, you know, the knees are a little bit softer for like kind of reasons. One, they're using more of their hips and not necessarily all of their legs, so they end up a little soft in the knees. But also when you're really, really, you know, leant back very far, it makes it difficult to actually fully extend the legs.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to explain, but basically, you know, because your hips are, you know, if you leant back too much, you can't extend your legs properly. Give it a try.
It's like imagine trying to straighten your legs whilst you're doing the limbo. It's impossible.
Quite tricky.
Because you need to have balance forwards as well. If everything is behind your midfoot, as in like it's from your heels backwards and your center of mass is moving backwards, guess where you're going? Backwards. So yeah, have you seen that slow-mo video of Klokov doing that 200 kilo pause snatch? Have you seen how far he is behind the bar?
Yeah,
mate, what the heck? And you called me out for soft knees on that. I was like, mate, if he can do that with 200, I can get there one day. All right, leave me alone.
You're not Klokov, mate.
Piss off.
You can get
until
200.
Until Zach Talander does another video that says you are not Klokov, I am Klokov. He's done one with I think it's you are not Lou and you are not Lasher, but until that Klokov one comes up, I'm throwing my shoulders back. All hips, baby.
How it's done.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Generally, I will always what's the expression? I'm trying to think. Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Like I'll always want our lifters to finish with their legs vertically, hips and quads as vertically as possible. Whereas I'm completely different. I have always been a very hippie lifter. And there's a certain female in our club who is also a very hippie lifter. It's not you, Alex, which we're trying to iron out of her so that I don't know why I did that. Everyone knows what a bloody iron is. Iron.
Imagine there was stop resisting.
Resistance is futile. You will be beaten.
You will use your legs.
Yeah. Well, it's not really something that I'd given much thought on. Actually,
because I was just comparing videos, and I'm like, actually, because I would think that obviously, is very much an it depends kind of question. But like, so far as you've maximized your leg drive, and then you've maximized your hip drive or your hip extension, then you should be good wherever it ends. Generally,
if the balance is correct, yeah.
It keeps the balance, and your knees are still extended. It's not costing your leg drive, and you're not too far away from the bar. So terms and conditions apply.
Terms and conditions apply. I wonder if a backwards lean also might contribute to the flexibility of your internal rotation of your shoulder.
Hold on.
Because, like, for example, if I'm going to extend and the bar is going to come up my body and my elbows can only rotate to like this, the bar is always going to be further away from me, right? So potentially what I might need to do is for me to be able to get into a more comfortable position to pull myself behind the bar and then finish, rather than if someone has slightly more internal rotation, they might be able to actually just pull up and then rotate. So I wonder if that might also, because my internal rotation is crap from playing rugby and American football for 5 years, and that's just my own fault of tearing rotator cuffs and having a pin in my right shoulder, and now I'm just like, what's even the point in doing shoulder mobility? As I said, do as I say, not as I do.
That is fair. That is fair. Unless, of course, you've got, pins in your shoulders and all sorts.
Yeah. But it's just excuses, Alex. I could definitely work on my internal rotation.
I'm going to have to chase you up.
But yeah, I think that might be a cause of it, because I've always lacked a lot of actually, to be fair, that's not too bad, but I've always lacked a lot of internal rotation where I actually find myself being here so that I can actually pull the bar higher, because if I stayed over the bar for too long, I don't think I'd be able to get my elbows up higher, and I already try and sneak under the bar. So
you're very good at it, so you can see why you do it.
Well, full of sneaky.
He's a little sneaky.
It's like The Great Escape, barbell edition of The Great Escape. Yeah. That was a good question.
I'll try and think of more very obscure technical ones that I come across.
No, I like that, because it's fun to see where our points of view are, but also it's more of like a what's the word I'm looking for? I feel lost for words today. Like my brain's not really switched on to 100%. The word I'm looking for is I thought that would jog my memory, but it didn't.
Yeah, so you just set one up.
Do you know when you say like the word is, and then you can't think of it? No, I would say it's a good question because it's thought-provoking, where you're kind of like, you just have a discussion about it because you're sort of like trying to figure out, well, it could be this or it could be that, or it could be many different factors.
If I'm good at anything, it's speculating wildly on topics I know nothing about. So, which
is pretty much everyone on the internet right now. And to anyone that I've just offended on this podcast, tough shit. Maybe you should try being a fucking prime minister for a day. I'm gonna end it there.
Be all right.
What'd you say?
I'd be all right. I'd be good.
You're like my what's the word? My advisor. I know nothing about the news, and then you send me all of these posts, and I'm like, cool. Now I know what's going on.
Now you know. I'm basically like glued to BBC news at the moment, just because with everything going on. And like, you know, I see something that makes me a bit mad, and then I have to send it to Connor just to make me less mad. So basically what happens.
Yeah. And then I'll just read it and just reply something like, I don't even know what I'll reply. I'm gonna read it. Let me see.
Oh no, that's terrible, isn't it?
Yeah. Wait. I felt when was the last one that you sent to me?
It was about 20 minutes ago.
It was, I would just put, oh shit. That was to the Titan rules in London and South East England, and you sent that thing to me, and I literally just go, oh shit.
Oh, shit.
It was meant to say oh shit, but it was this because, you know, autocorrect is having my life.
Having your life.
Whoa.
Oh no.
But yeah, anyway, that concludes this week. Hopefully, I don't want to jinx it, but we might have a guest on next week. Hopefully, if he can join us.
Well, I mean, seeing as he is also in tier 4, I don't see why not. Yes. I mean, unless he started lifting, in which case, very reasonable excuse.
Is Essex in tier 4?
I think so. Yeah. Well, some of it is, some of it isn't.
How come Colchester's weightlifting club is still open then?
Yeah, because Colchester's not.
Oh wow, that's great.
Yeah, I was very surprised. I asked Greg. I was like, "How comes it's not?" You know, I thought that you would have been responsible for putting Colchester. But apparently, it's still under tier 2, I think, or 3. I don't know.
Interesting.
So,
all I know is that the people that are outside of London and the southeast are still going to be getting gains.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And having a good chuckle at our expense.
Yeah.
We were laughing at the north, and now the north is laughing at us.
The north are always laughing at the south.
Yeah, but then, you know.
To be fair, the north probably aren't laughing at the south. The north are probably now just like, now you fucking know what it's like, don't you?
This is
that's karma.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, we're just there like.
And then the north are just like, welcome to our world, bitches.
Our world. Yeah, except like if I can come to your world, can I not pay £6 for a pint? Can I pay 2, please? That would be nice.
That's if pubs are open. I don't think pubs are open here.
Not open.
Although there is a pub in Newcastle that's serving takeaway pints. I don't know why you would ever want to have a takeaway pint in.
Go to the Offie and get a takeaway pint.
Go to where?
The Offie, the off license, the bottle.
The Offie. Go to the Offie, get a takeaway pint. Do you know what you need? I'm going to leave everyone here listening, and also you, with a quick recommendation of what to watch on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
You need to watch the new documentary called The Ripper.
Okay.
It's about the Yorkshire Ripper. It's amazing.
Ooh. Damn.
And everyone in the documentary talks like this. Right, so we got a notice of this guy, and he was driving in his car, and he turned headlights on, and then he battered this woman in, right, and then she had 52 knife wounds. That's basically.
Take it seriously.
Anyway, hopefully I haven't offended any Yorkshiremen.
Well, you know, it's yeah.
That's just, it do be like that. Anyway.
I suppose it do be like that.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We shall catch you next week.
Yeah, next week. See you for more tier 4 goodness.
Hopefully with a guest.
Yeah.
Sweet. Peace out, guys.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.